Usama Tahir and you're watching Learn English with Usama Tahir. Okay, students, we have discussed so many things about society and the language. Okay, today we are moving forward this discussion to a new level. So before starting this video lecture, I have a question for you. So, do you think there are some linguistic features that are used to reflect from which social class an individual belongs to? Student, we have multiple linguistic features in any language, like pronunciation patterns or the structures on morphological level, on the sound level. So do you think that these linguistic features reflect from which social class, from maybe working class, middle class, or the upper class a person belongs to? So this is our question today. So yes, there are some linguistic features that tells you from which social group, from which social class you belong to, and we call them social markers. All of those linguistic features, okay, let's thoroughly read the definition, it would be much better. Then okay, this sort of linguistic features that mark or not mark the individual as the part of certain group or social class. Okay, these social markers are those sort of linguistic features that tells you from the certain group you are or maybe you are not. For example, maybe if you use them you will be considered to be the part of certain speech community, and maybe you unintentionally exclude yourself from certain group by using that feature. It depends on the situation. If you're using a certain linguistic feature, maybe you are telling the person in front of you that you are from the certain group or you are not from the certain group. Don't worry, if it's hard for you to understand right now, I will explain it with the help of examples, so there is no problem. So what kind of features these could be? These features could be post vocalic R, like pronunciation of R sound after the vowel, like morning. You can pronounce this word in two ways, like morning or morning, like morning without pronouncing R. Tire or tire, tire or tire. Fourth with the R pronunciation, or fourth. Girl or the girl, car or the car with the R pronunciation. So it depends. And this pronunciation tells you from which social class you belong to. We will explain it further on. Like pronunciation of n sound after the words having ing at the end. For example, saying sitting instead of saying sitting, some groups say sit in, walk in, talk in. I mean, they use n sound instead of ing sound. Like they drop the g sound at the end of those words. Walking, instead of saying walking, they say walk in. Like this something sort of. Okay, h dropping. Some of the groups drop the initial h of the words, her sound of the words. For example, instead of saying husband, some groups say husband. Instead of saying humble, humble. Instead of saying hungry, hungry. So these are some linguistic features. So okay, let's discuss the examples, which is very important for you to understand. In the New York, the more you pronounce post-vocalic R, the more likely you belong to upper class. So this is one of the best example of social markers. So the more you pronounce R, the more you belong to the richer class. Okay. The next example, the less you are educated or you belong to the working class, there are more chances you will pronounce n sound after ing, like sit in, walk in, bath in. So according to this example, it means that if you belong to working class, there are more chances that you will pronounce these words like sit in, walk in, instead of saying them properly sitting. So this is one of the good example of social markers. Another one is, similarly, age dropping is very common in working class, in the poor class, and not followed by the upper and the middle class. So it also tells you from which social group, from which occupational category you belong to. So instead of saying humble, they say humble, hungry husband. So I understand that in my, before 1 minute or two, it was very tricky, but after the examples I think it has become a little bit easier for you to understand what are the social markers. Like these are just the features, nothing else, but these features tells you and it reflects you, your personality, that from which social group or the occupational category you belong to. So it's like the part of your identity. So you just get yourself identified through these linguistic features. So we usually do these or perform or not perform these features because it is in we are habitual to it. But the person who are linguists or the person who are studying language, they can easily understand that from which social group we belong to. So this is what we discuss. Okay, your task after this video lecture, there is an interesting task for you that you can perform. Like, find out some of the social markers from your language community, whatever your language. There can be some language features that are present in or that are used by the upper class and not by the middle class, or can be used by the middle class and not by the upper class, or can be in the working class and not in the middle, or whatever, something like that. So if you have any kind of features, you can discuss in the comment section, so we can improve our learning in this regard. And that was all today, and I hope you have understood the overall concept. If there are still ambiguities in your mind, you can ask me in the comment section so I can help you. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.